I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, pouring out my guts on some online forum, but honestly, I'm at a loss. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We met in college, had a pretty normal relationship, the kind everyone dreams about, or at least I did. She was smart, funny, a little bitchy sometimes, but in that charming way that made me laugh. We got married right after she finished her master, and for a while things seemed perfect. Or so I thought. The first signs of trouble started subtly. Little things, her phone buzzing constantly, she'd hide her texts, and when I asked who it was, she'd brush it off with some stupid excuse about being busy at work or having a friend who was just venting. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was paranoid. Maybe she was just stressed. But then I noticed she was spending more and more time out, claiming she had work events or girls' nights. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and her stories about where she'd been started to sound flaky. One night, I came home early from work, caught her trying to slip her phone into her purse when she didn't think I was looking. I saw the glow of a message on her screen that said something about, "Can't wait to see you tonight." I asked her about it, and she shot me a sharp look, saying it was just her coworker. I didn't push because I didn't want to be that guy accusing her without proof. Still, something felt off. My gut was telling me to look closer. Then came the real bombshell. I decided to do a little digging, nothing crazy, just looking through her stuff when she was out. That's when I found the backstage passes tucked between some clothes in her closet. They were from a concert I knew she'd never attend. I checked further. Hotel receipts from shows in cities she'd never visited, all with her name on them. I was stunned. She'd been lying right to my face, sneaking around with some guy who was apparently a local musician named Tyler. How the hell did I miss this? I mean, I knew she loved music, but I never thought she'd cheat on me with some guy who played at our wedding of all people. It hit me like a punch in the stomach. My wife, the woman I loved, had been sleeping with this guy, Tyler, for months. That was the first time I truly felt the ground shift beneath me. Everything I believed about us, about her, it all crumbled in that moment. I was furious, devastated, and honestly, a little numb. How long had this been going on? How many nights did she spend with him while I was at work or asleep? And the worst part, she lied about everything. Her lies kept piling up about her work trips, her friend's birthday, all of it just a cover story for her secret life. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to calm down, figure out what I was going to do, but inside I was boiling. I started to think about everything, the way she used to look at me, her sneers when I asked about her whereabouts, the little things I ignored because I loved her too much. Now it all felt like a betrayal I couldn't forgive. How could she do this? To me, too. I'd trusted her with everything, and she threw it all away for some damn musician who played at our wedding. That's what hurts the most. She was the woman I married, and now I realize I was just a fool. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her sneaky texts, the hotel receipts. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I knew I couldn't stay quiet. I had to confront her. But I also knew that this wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about what I was going to do next. Because once you find out your wife is cheating with your favorite local musician, your mind starts racing. Do you forgive? Do you forget? Or do you cut her out completely? I decided I'd confront her the next day. I didn't want her to slip away before I had a chance to say what I was feeling. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of what was going to be the most intense fight of my life. The morning came way too fast, and I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept circling around everything I'd uncovered last night. The hotel receipts, the backstage passes, her shady stories. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to process it all. Part of me wanted to just grab her, ask her straight out, demand answers. But I knew better than that. I needed to plan my move, think it through, because I knew once I confronted her, nothing would be the same. I decided I'd wait until she came home from work. That gave me a few hours to figure out how I was going to approach her. I didn't want to blow up without a plan. I needed her to admit it, or at least give me something concrete. I kept replaying the evidence in my head, trying to stay calm, but inside I was a mess. My stomach was twisting, my hands slightly trembling. I never thought I'd be the guy who'd find out his wife was cheating on him, especially not with some musician she'd probably faked having a thing for just to cover her tracks. When Lisa finally walked through the door that afternoon, I was already waiting in the living room with my arms crossed. She looked tired, a little hurried, like she'd been running around all day. She didn't notice my expression right away. I could see her trying to act normal, that bitchy smirk she always threw when she thought she was being clever. She said, "Hey babe," like nothing was wrong, but I didn't smile back. "I need to talk," I said flatly. Her face changed, that little sneer of hers flickering into place. "What's going on?" she asked, voice a little too casual. I didn't waste time. I pulled out the receipts, the backstage passes, everything I'd found. I laid it on the table. Her eyes widened for a second, then she recovered, and her mouth started to spin some bullshit about how it was all a misunderstanding, or maybe she was just doing it for fun, that she was bored, that it didn't mean anything. I didn't buy it. I told her I knew she'd been lying, that I'd found the proof of her affair with Tyler. Her face twisted into a look of pure annoyance, then she shot back. "You're crazy, Mike. You're just jealous, or you're making this up. I don't know what you want from me." That's when I really saw her for what she was: manipulative, selfish, and willing to lie her way out of anything. I lost my temper a little, told her she was full of shit, that I wasn't stupid, and that I knew she'd been sneaking around for months. She rolled her eyes, said I was being paranoid, accused me of spying. I told her I'd had enough, that I was done playing her game. She just looked at me with that bitchy smirk, the kind that said she thought she had all the power. But I could see the cracks forming. She was trying to deny everything, but I knew her too well. Lies only go so far when the evidence is staring you in the face. The confrontation got heated fast. She threw some cheap shots, called me insecure, said I was overreacting. But I wasn't about to let her lie her way out of this. I told her I was sick of her bullshit, that I deserved the truth, no matter how ugly. That's when she snapped, told me I was controlling, that I didn't understand her, that she needed space, and that I was just making everything into a drama. That was the moment I realized she was going to keep lying, keep denying, because she didn't want to admit what she'd done. The emotional fallout hit me hard. I felt betrayed on every level. My heart was pounding, my stomach in knots. I felt this cold wave of sadness crash over me, knowing I'd lost the woman I loved, not just to some affair, but to her own selfishness. I'd always trusted her, believed in us, and now I was left with nothing but a million questions and a deep, aching emptiness. I told her to leave. I couldn't even look at her anymore. She packed a bag and stormed out, still pretending she was innocent, still lying to herself. As I watched her go, a strange mix of anger, disappointment, and grief settled in. I knew I'd have to decide what my next move was, but right then, all I could think about was how much I'd been played for a fool. How many nights I'd sat next to her, thinking we were happy when she was out with Tyler, probably laughing at me behind my back. That night I just sat alone, alcohol in hand, trying to drown everything out. I didn't cry, not really. I was too numb. I knew this was only the beginning of something much worse, a long, painful road of heartbreak and revenge. But one thing was clear: I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and rage. I kept replaying everything in my head: her smirk, her lies, the way she dismissed my feelings like I was just some inconvenience. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself, though. I needed a plan, a way to make her pay for what she'd done, even if that meant going down some dark roads I never thought I'd consider. I started digging deeper. I went through her phone, her emails, her social media accounts, anything I could get my hands on. I wanted to understand exactly how long she'd been cheating, what kind of person Tyler was, and how blind I'd been to all of it. Honestly, it was a sickening feeling, like I'd been hit again, only this time from the inside. Every message, every photo was a dagger in my chest. She'd been sending him flirty texts, even explicit stuff, all while pretending to be the loyal wife I'd known. I also found out she'd been going to his shows, always with some excuse, always claiming she was out with friends. But it was all a lie. She was an active participant in her own betrayal. The receipts from hotels, the backstage passes, she'd been lying about her whereabouts for months. I felt such a deep betrayal I started to question everything about our marriage. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I was furious, but beneath that was this crushing sense of sadness. I'd given her everything, and she just threw it away for some damn musician with a guitar. I knew I had to do something, but what? I didn't want to just confront her again and risk her denying everything, which she probably would. I needed to catch her in the act, expose her fully. So I started making some plans. I reached out to a private investigator I knew from work, someone who owed me a favor. I told him to keep an eye on her, see where she went, who she saw, and to gather any proof of her ongoing affair. I wasn't planning on just breaking up. I wanted to make her see the extent of how badly she'd screwed up. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me in a way that would hit her hard. Meanwhile, I also started to prepare for the worst. I looked into lawyers, thinking about divorce, splitting everything, maybe even full custody of our dog, Max. I didn't want to be that guy, but I knew I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I wasn't going to be some fool who got played and just said, "Oh well," and moved on. No, I was going to make her regret every lie, every sneaky moment. I wanted her to know I was serious. This wasn't just some fling, this was a betrayal of everything we had. The most unsettling part was the emotional toll. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, replaying what I'd uncovered. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply hurt. She made a fool out of me, and honestly, I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. I kept thinking about the good times, the simple moments when I thought we were happy, and how she'd shattered all of that with a few secret nights and some music-loving asshole. It's crazy how one person's betrayal can turn your whole world upside down. And then there was this feeling, almost like a deep, burning need to get revenge. Not just for me, but for the way she'd lied and manipulated her way through our marriage. I told myself I wouldn't be the guy who chased her, begged, or tried to fix what was broken. But inside, I knew I was already planning my next move. I just had to wait for the right moment, let her think she's still in control, then strike. Because if she thought she could get away with it, she was dead wrong. It was a strange mix of determination and despair. I'd never felt so lost, yet so angry at the same time. I knew this wasn't just about catching her cheating anymore. This was about reclaiming some dignity, about showing her that she couldn't cheat and lie without consequences. I didn't want her to walk out of this unscathed. Honestly, I wanted her to feel the same pain I did, maybe more. That's what revenge was shaping up to be, something cold, calculated, and final. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of walking away without knowing just how badly she'd fucked up her life. The day I finally got the intel I'd been waiting for was a strange mix of anticipation and dread. The private investigator had been following her for a week, and his reports weren't pretty. She'd been spending nights out with Tyler at a hotel near the city, and the photos he sent, those were the final nails in the coffin. There she was, in bed with him, looking as close to happy as I'd ever seen her. That image burned into my mind like a branding iron. I stared at it for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of how she could betray me like that, how she could look so damn comfortable cheating on her own wedding vows. I remember sitting in the dark, holding the phone with his message still open. I felt numb, yet everything inside was boiling. I knew I couldn't just sit and stew anymore. It was time for the confrontation, the final showdown. I had to do it face to face, quietly, without her knowing I'd been watching her every move. I wanted her to realize I had gone from the naive husband who trusted her blindly to someone who had uncovered her secret world. That night, I arranged to meet her at her favorite coffee shop, one she'd always said was her sanctuary. I kept my emotions in check, trying to appear calm. When she walked in late, wearing that bitchy smirk, I saw right through it. She tried to flirt, to pretend everything was normal, but I didn't bite. I pulled out the evidence, photos, hotel receipts, her phone messages, and laid it all on the table. "You've been lying," I said simply. "I know about Tyler, I know everything." Her face flickered with annoyance, then anger, then that fake smile again. She tried to deny it, of course, said I was mistaken, that I was paranoid. But I cut her off. There was no more room for her bullshit. I told her I'd seen enough, that I knew the truth, and I wanted to hear her say it. Her reaction was priceless. Instead of breaking down or apologizing, she threw a tantrum. "You're such a jealous idiot," she snapped. "You don't understand what our marriage even is. You're controlling, boring, and I needed something more exciting. Tyler understands me, he actually listens." Her words hit me like a punch. She was blaming me, saying I was the problem, that her affair was somehow justified because I wasn't good enough. That's when I realized she didn't see me as her partner anymore. I was just a placeholder, an obstacle she wanted to get rid of. I felt anger coursing through my veins, but I kept my voice steady. "You think this is normal? You think cheating on your wedding day with some musician is okay? You lied to me to my face for months. And for what? Some stupid thrill, some ego boost." I slammed my hand on the table. "You're a liar, Lisa. And I don't want to be with someone who treats marriage like a game." She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and stormed out of the place like she was the victim. I just sat there, staring after her, feeling everything collapse inside me. I'd never felt so humiliated in my life. Here I was, the guy who thought he had it all, only to find out I'd been played for a fool. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was the realization that she didn't care about me, about us. She just wanted her ego stroked, her excitement, some fleeting thrill with a guy I once thought was just a friend. That night was the turning point. I knew I had to do something drastic. I started thinking about how to make her pay, how to make her understand what she'd lost. I wasn't going to just leave quietly, no, I wanted her to see the damage she'd done, to feel it in her bones. I thought about exposing her to friends, her family, even her boss if I had to. I wanted her to understand that a betrayal like this couldn't be swept under the rug with some apology or tears. It needed to be something she'd never forget. But beneath all that anger, I also felt a strange sense of relief. At least now I knew the truth. I didn't have to wonder anymore. I could finally start to figure out what I was going to do with myself, how I was going to move on from this mess. I realized I'd been giving her the benefit of the doubt for too long. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone selfish and manipulative. And from here on out, I'd be the one calling the shots. She might have thought she could cheat and lie her way out of this, but I was about to show her just how wrong she was. After that confrontation, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. Every moment was a mix of anger, heartbreak, and a strange clarity that I had to do something, anything, to reclaim my life. I decided to cut all ties with her, at least temporarily, to give myself some space to think. No texts, no calls. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, but I also knew I needed a plan that would hit her where it hurt most. I spent the next few days gathering evidence, talking to a lawyer, and preparing myself emotionally. The lawyer confirmed what I already suspected. Divorce was inevitable if I wanted to proceed. I never imagined myself in this position. But I also never imagined being betrayed like this either. I kept replaying her words, her lies, and the look she gave me like I was the problem. That bitchy smirk she wore even when she was caught red-handed. God, I hated it. Meanwhile, I'd been secretly working with the private investigator. He'd been following her, tracking her movements and snapping pictures. The goal was clear. I wanted her to feel the consequences of her actions. I wasn't just planning to divorce her. I wanted her to see how badly she'd screwed up her life. I knew she thought she could play the victim, but I was about to flip the script. One afternoon, I got a call from the PI. His report was brutal. She'd been spending nights with Tyler at a luxury hotel downtown, clearly trying to keep their affair hidden. I felt that familiar surge of rage. I realized I needed to confront her once and for all, but this time I had to be smarter. I wasn't just going to storm in and scream like an angry idiot. I needed to make her realize she lost something real, me, our marriage, everything we built. I arranged for a meeting, not to fight but to deliver a final blow. I chose a neutral place, a fancy restaurant downtown where I knew she'd come and not suspect anything. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some cuckolded husband. I was someone who'd taken control again. I got there early, sat at a corner table and waited. When she arrived, her eyes flickered with that familiar bitchy smirk. She thought she could lie her way out of this one, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I laid the evidence on the table, screenshots of her messages, hotel receipts, photos from the PI. Her face instantly drained of color, then she tried to deny everything, saying it was all a misunderstanding. That she was just confused, that Tyler was just a friend, that she didn't mean anything, that she never meant for me to find out. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You lied to me every step of the way. You thought you could get away with this, didn't you?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out right away. I continued, "You think you're clever, but you're not. You lost me, Lisa. You threw away everything we had for some stupid thrill with that musician. And now I'm done playing your game." It felt like I was finally taking back some control, even if inside I was shattered. Her reaction: she got angry, started yelling, calling me insecure, controlling, and a bunch of other bullshit. But I just sat there calm because I knew I'd already won in a way. She was cornered. Her lies were exposed, and she looked desperate, like she wanted to crawl out of her skin. That day, I realized I didn't want to be with someone who could betray me so easily, who thought cheating was just a game. I told her I was done, that she'd ruined everything, and I was going to leave her. I didn't want her to think I was begging or pleading. I wanted her to face the reality of her choices. I told her I file for divorce and I wanted her gone from my life. The aftermath was just as brutal. She left, furious and crying, but I didn't care anymore. I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with a heavy sadness I didn't know how to handle. I knew I'd lost the woman I loved, but I also knew I was finally free from her lies. I had taken control, and that gave me a small sense of peace, at least for now. I learned that sometimes you need to hit rock bottom before you can start climbing back up, and I was determined to do just that. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life, like waking up from a nightmare but knowing I couldn't go back to sleep. Every day was a battle between anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. I had finally cut her out of my life, and though the pain of betrayal still lingered, I felt like I was starting to breathe again. The house was eerily quiet without her presence, and I spent a lot of time reflecting on what I'd learned from all of this. One thing I realized was how deeply I'd underestimated her. I always thought I knew her, that her bitchy attitude and sharp tongue were just part of her personality. But behind all that was someone capable of lying, cheating, and manipulating her way through our marriage. It made me question everything: trust, love, the very foundation of the life we built. Yet in the wreckage, I also found a new sense of clarity. I wasn't perfect, but I deserved someone who valued honesty and respect. Someone who didn't cheat behind my back with a damn musician. Looking back, I see how naive I was to ignore the signs, the late nights, the evasiveness, the little lies. I thought I was just being paranoid, but I was actually giving her a free pass to do whatever she wanted. She played me like a fool, and I let her because I loved her too much to see the truth. Now I know that love isn't just about forgiving. Sometimes, it's about walking away and realizing you're better off without someone who doesn't respect you. I also learned that revenge isn't always about revenge. It's about reclaiming your dignity, about taking control of your life when someone else tried to destroy it. I didn't do anything messy or destructive. I just gathered the facts, stayed calm, and made my move. That's what gave me peace, knowing I didn't let her ruin me. I refused to be a victim anymore. Instead, I became the one in control. Now I'm focusing on me. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional scars, and I've been reconnecting with friends and family I'd let drift away during the chaos. I've even taken up some hobbies I'd abandoned: running, playing guitar, and just trying to rebuild my sense of self. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I also know I won't let it define me. What I want to say to anyone reading this is simple. If you're going through something similar, don't ignore the signs. Trust your gut. And don't be afraid to take control before it's too late. You're not weak for feeling hurt, you're human. But you're also stronger than you think. No one deserves to be lied to or cheated on. And sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I can't say I'm perfect now, and I still have my days where everything feels raw. But I know I'll be okay, because I finally took my power back. And if there's anything I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the greatest act of revenge is living your life better without the person who tried to destroy it.